Hi guys and welcome to our next video. This video is theoretical and it's all about denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attacks, or DOS and DDoS in short. Here I'm going to explain you all the theoretical needs and requirements about understanding the attack, how it works, why it works that way, and why it's so simple but yet effective. So now we're going to cover everything here, everything possible. If I miss anything, please leave a comment below. And now it's time to actually begin. So let's cover what's basically a DOS attack. And the denial of service attack, or DOS, is basically a cyber attack which is mainly focused on disabling or blocking the traffic of some services or the whole server. Okay, so it can also block the server itself, it can block the traffic, but in most cases it's causing that server to be actually unavailable and their resources to be actually unavailable for any legitimate user out there. So basically no one can connect, no one can use that service, no one can do anything with that, you're just blocking everything. So this attack is basically aimed by the cyber criminals, because as a penetration testers we can only use DDoS or DOS to see how the server can actually handle that type of attack and to actually see how stable and resistant it is. So as a white hat hackers we do not need to implement that attacks, but we gonna show and demonstrate how the attacks work, how the tools work, in order to know and actually how to do and how to protect from that kind of attacks. Because in order to protect from something you need to know how it's working. So now the denial of service attack is just that, just blocking traffic, blocking a connection, and it's mainly attacking the web servers on a specific ports. And the bad thing about that attack is that it's amazingly easy to implement, it's amazingly easy to actually cause damage, to shut down servers, and it's very, very dangerous. So why is it dangerous? Because as I said, it's completely easy to implement that attack, it's completely easy and fast to use that attack and to actually shoot that attack for targets. So this is because it's simple, the theory and the mindset of the attack is simple, and that's why it can be easily implemented. So this is the whole definition of DOS attack. It's just attack who is focused on disabling the traffic or the server itself, shutting down servers. It can shut down server, it can shut down services, it can shut down just the traffic, it can shut down that specific things. It's mainly focused on disabling other user to use that services. So now let's go for how the DOS attack actually works. And it works really simple. DOS attack is just the easiest attack you can implement, and it's working by sending packets. Every DOS attack needs to actually send the packets to a specific IP, to a specific port, and therefore it can start sending packets, multiple packets in just huge time lapse. So therefore the server cannot calculate the packets and they make it to crash. This is the whole idea, the whole principle of the attack. You just start sending a lot of packets to a server with high speed, which depends on your machine and your network speed, and you continuously sending that packets on the server. Therefore, when it comes to a time that the server cannot calculate all the packets, it makes it to crash, or he cannot accept any more communication on that specific port. So as you can see, that attack is very simple, it's really easy to implement, you just need to send a lot of packets. So for example, how the servers are working. As we said before in the previous video, in the networking part, the server is a machine who is standing there and just running some services. That's all it's doing. And a client is a machine that do not have running services, but it communicates with that server in order to get information or post information. For example, when you are creating registration, you are posting into a database into the server because you are editing something. But when you, for example, are browsing and you are clicking to a page to another, you are just getting content from that web page and you're just loading content to your browser. So that means you are not posting anything, so there are different methods of actually interacting with that server. But the idea is the same, that the server is just standing there and the actual client is connecting to that server. So Here we are exploiting that, and actually beside connecting, we are just sending multiple packets without actually waiting for a response. Because, for example, when you use get methods in order to get something from a page, you send a different request and you are waiting for the response from that request, and when the response comes, the web page is rolling. That's how it's working. But here we are not interested in getting responses. We are interested in sending requests. So we are just sending a lot of requests without waiting a response, and we are going to make this when we know the server is going to accept that request, and therefore those requests are going to make the server to crash. They're going to overflow the server, they're going to overwhelm the server, so the server cannot actually calculate the legitimate packets from the legitimate users. So for example, if I'm DOSing the server and someone else is trying to connect, he won't be able to, because I am overwhelming the server with packets. So I can say that DOS is actually attack on network level, because we don't need to interact much with the web app. So we just need to actually see the IP and see that if it's actually accepting directive approach. So DOS is a very dangerous attack. It is a very powerful attack. It can shut down services and traffic. The most danger about DOS is that it's completely easy to implement, and basically anyone can do this. So let's talk about what is a DDoS. And the DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service Attack. Or in other words, you are attacking with DOS from multiple sources. And source means the sender of the packet. So basically, if I'm DOSing a target, I am the source of that attack. So multiple sources. So the main difference is that the DDoS is coming from multiple machines on multiple different networks simultaneously. So this makes the attack more powerful, but every machine itself is casting a DOS attack for that target. And combining that DOS attack is actually what's so-called DDoS, or Distributed Denial of Service. There are also botnets that can actually get paid for that in deep and dark web, but we are not going there. I'm just saying that for information. You can hire botnet, or you can create your own by hacking different machines and forcing that machines to DOS a specific IP. While you have a control over some network of machines, this is so-called botnet. And botnets can be used for mining cryptocurrencies or for DDoSing some targets, and many more stuff. So on a technical level, the DDoS is actually working like multiple DOS instances. They're running on the same server, on the same target, simultaneously. This is how the DDoS is working. And you can think that the DDoS is really and far more powerful and greater than the DOS, because it can shut down really quicker. All the traffic, all the servers, all the services, it can shut down quicker. And the disadvantage of DDoS is that it's harder to implement. So this is why it's not so easy to use, because you need to actually hack multiple machines or pay to use that resources. But it's far more powerful, it's far more greater, and it can do a lot of damage, a lot more damage to a specific server or service or server. So this is the basics of DDoS. It's like a DOS from multiple places. Now let's go over what's actually how to actually see if the websites or the servers are vulnerable to DOS or DDoS attack. As we said before, on technical level, DOS and DDoS are working quite the same, but DDoS is just casting DOS instances from many sources. So that means if a target is vulnerable to DOS, it can be vulnerable to DDoS again as well. So if you find the target is vulnerable to DOS or DDoS, it's vulnerable to the other side. So you don't have to worry about it. And the DOS or DDoS attacks are mainly focused on websites because they are most commonly used, and therefore FTP servers, and the chain goes on. So now we are inspecting websites. And what is actually a website? A website is a web server which is hosted or staying and listening on a specific machine. So we have a server, a physical machine, a really strong machine there, and we have a running web server on that machine, which actually allows remote communication on port 80 or 8080, depends on what you configure it. And therefore we have our HTML, our PHP, for example, or our web app standing on that web server. So for example, we have some physical server, therefore we have Apache installed, and we have our web app standing on that Apache. So we are actually interacting with that Apache server, and therefore with that machine. This is the chain. So now to see if that server or service is vulnerable to DOS or DDoS, we have to actually see somehow if the server accepts directly raw packets to directly approaching the IP. What I mean by that? If your server is staying there and you can connect to that server directly with the IP and can send raw packets directly through that IP through that port, that means the server is vulnerable to DOS or DDoS, because let's say your packets are not GET, POST or some requests. You are sending multiple packets simultaneously at once and without stopping, without waiting for response. So if the server is not configured to actually filter somehow the packets or to actually make some kind of a rules, if the server or the firewall are not configured such way, the packets you are sending with your automated tools is gonna be accepted. So every accepted packets means more resources by the server, means more slowing down, and afterwards are meaning that the server is shutting down in time lapse. So to see how a server is actually vulnerable to DOS or DDoS attack, you have to see that if the server can accept directly from the IP, from the port, raw packets. If the server accepts that raw packets, that the game is over, it's vulnerable. And keep in mind that you can get easily triggered from IDS, IPS, and firewall. So you have to be really careful, because IDS and IPS are working quite different from the firewall, because they have rules for malicious attacks. They have rules for like DDoSing. For example, if from that sources that amounts of packets are coming to me, I count that as DDoS, because DOSing is automatically sending multiple packets, and depending on your machine speed and your networking speed, you can send a lot of packets. So basically, if you're not using tool, you are unable, and it's impossible to send that amount of packets. So there's a rule, for example, for IPS, which says if I receive that amount of packets from that IP at once, I'm gonna block that IP. So this is one perfect example of how the rules about IPS are working. There are rules for malicious activities, and this perfectly explains what it does. So you have to be very careful about it. We're gonna use in future DOS from Tor network, and therefore you can actually try to somehow bypass that mechanism, but it's again kind of hard. So you're gonna see all that in future. For now, you just need the theoretical basics and fundamentals about the attack and how it works. And so now I can specify some tools for DOS and DDoS. So for actually scanning for vulnerabilities about DOS and DDoS. So we have Nmap here. With Nmap we can actually send raw packets. We can actually see if the server can accept communication. We have Netcat or NC, with which we can actually try to connect on a specific port on a specific IP to see if it can accept our connection. Therefore we have web browsers, like we can actually try to ping some website to see its IP address, and therefore try to navigate that IP address to a web browser. And if we get the exact same page, so that means it's vulnerable to DDoS. It's accepting direct approach. And therefore we have tools like Metasploit and many more that can be used for using checking connectivity on some ports and some IPs, which we are interested in. And so now we have tools for DDoS attacks themselves, or DOS attacks. And now we have a lot of tools here really, because creating a DOS tool is really easy. You saw how we did it with like 5 rows of Python code. Creating a DDoS tool or DOS tool, is easy, so everyone can basically do it whenever it wants. And the most used tools are like WOIC, which is Orbit Yonkanon. It is a graphical user interface tool that can DDoS pretty hard. It's hitting like a truck. Therefore we have Metasploit. There are modules about DOSing. We have Tor's Harbor, which is specified for DOSing through Tor's network, and you're gonna see how that tool works in future. It's a really good tool, it's really amazing. We have Xerx, we have Python. In Python, which we can actually create our own tools. We can create tools for checking connectivity, that's why I put Python in that category. And we have many more tools. As I said, there are a lot of tools for DOSing because they're quite easy to implement, quite easy to write, and everyone can do its own. So let's go for how to actually prevent or get secured from DOS attack. So the best way is actually to have some kind of IPS or firewall with a script that can actually block connections, block IPs, and block ports, and block the whole IP ranges. So we have like a system that can automatically block sources that it counts as malicious or DOSing activity. This is actually the best way to prevent DOS. For example, that one with the IPS rule, that is actually scanning all the packets, and if the count matches the DDoS rule, it just blocks the IP range from where the packets are coming. And by this way, it's gonna start and blocking packets from that point, so therefore the packets wouldn't receive to the server, and therefore they wouldn't be calculated, so the server is gonna actually save resources and use that resources for the legitimate users. So there we have IPS and IDS protection. You can also go and call your server and host your server to some kind of protection platforms like Cloudflare, and Cloudflare is good too because it actually blocks direct interaction with that server, with that IP. It blocks the direct interaction, so that's why the tools like Cloudflare are good, because they do not allow directly connecting to your IP from someone else's source IP. So the main idea is to block the direct connectivity on that specific IP. That's the point. And therefore try to use some kind of firewalls, IDS, IPS. And actually you can also try to close all news ports, because if the hacker actually sees that you have a news port but you have open communication data on news ports, he can, for example, start DOSing with TCP packets and therefore start crashing the server. And if the server crash, the web server is gonna crash again, so it's gonna be unusable. So you have to be really protected, really watch all your firewalls, watch all your ports, your network, and therefore use some kind of technology to cover and hide your IP, to deny all direct IP interactions. So this is the main point, the main idea of protecting against DOS or DDoS. And thank you guys for watching. This was today's video, and it was theoretical about DOS and DDoSing. I hope I was clear. If I missed something, feel free to write in the comments below. In the next videos, you're gonna see how the DOS are actually working, how the tools of DOSing are actually working, how you can take down servers, take down services, and shut down the traffic. And I wanna say that this is only for educational purpose, and to actually see and try your server's resistance and how much they can handle. So I really appreciate you guys for watching, and see you in the next videos.